Darkcast Network. Indie pods with a dark side.
You are listening to Castles and Cryptids, where the castles are haunted and the cryptids are cryptic as fuck. And I'm your host, Alana.
And I'm Kelsey.
And it is episode 166. Welcome back, or welcome new people. Wait, 167.
I was just gonna say, we just did this.
And I had 166 on the mind. Okay, well, it's an episode. We're back. We're putting it out very shortly after we record this also, because that's how life is around this time of year, as we were just talking about off air, if you will.
Hectic, chaotic, expensive.
Yeah. And we're Canadian. We don't even the one thing we don't have to deal with, we already got rid of right now, because we already got through our Thanksgiving. But Kelsey's got like a million birthdays also apparently in November.
Yeah.
So. What the hell, man? What's that all about? No.
Yeah, it's a lot. I wish everything was just a little more spread out. It would certainly be easier.
Right? The only thing I know is that according to a recent mini episode of the 10ish, the least common birthday is February 29th. That's obvious. But also most of the most common ones are, or not, February 29th. The leap year one, Pat's is February 28th, so his is very close. But September has like the most common birthday months. It's weird. Who knows?
Wow.
I guess
people getting bored in January? What's up?
I think they were also implying or getting busy around the holidays.
Or Happy New Year with a stranger.
Oh, New Year babies, yes.
Yeah.
Conceived on New Year's, yes.
Yeah.
Oh my.
What are you guys getting up to on New Year's? Wow.
I literally, that's so funny. You just reminded me talking about birthdays that I got home, and Pat showed me a video that said my spirit animal was a dolphin because my birth month is March. And I was like, wait, what?
What?
I think you mean a seal. Because I love seals. They're a little less... Are dolphins aggressively rapey, or did I just hear that somewhere?
No, it's dolphins.
Dolphins and otters. Ooh, sorry about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, also, the seals are fatter. I need to be like a...
They're so cute when they're like going like this. They're like doing the worm to move.
Right. Because they're just
land.
so
like,
so
whoa. So
clumsy on land. Yeah. Oh man. Anyway, we're here, we're back. There was a very long episode last week, so we hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Even if it did end up coming out a little bit later, as I was mentioning to Kelsey, I was having tech issues with, things that I maybe just don't understand very well sometimes. So
it's okay. We're still figuring it out.
Probably partially user error, and then my computer was dead, and then I was like, oh, it's coming out. So I messaged on Instagram, and by the time I talked to my brother, he was like, I think I'm halfway done. Like, he wasn't even done our episode. It was so long, Kelsey. It was almost 3 hours.
Yeah.
We're like a Marvel movie.
Right?
Oh my god. Hey, some people like it. I always hear that. You can always fast forward.
Yeah, pop us in headphones, and you can take us with you while you do. I used to love listening to podcasts while I was doing like laundry or the dishes or cleaning my house, stuff like that. It's like, yes, take us with you while you go grocery shopping.
I did think I said something like, yeah, you can clean your whole house or something.
Yeah, you could do a deep clean of your house in 3 hours listening to our last episode.
Great for vacuuming. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it did end up being long. My story was quite long. I think this time mine's a little bit shorter. Just
Okay.
because it's a
Mine's
lot
not
more
bad.
like listicle form. You'll
Ooh,
see. Ooh.
I'm excited. It'll be a much lighter episode this week than last week. We wanted to, we don't like doing too heavy of episodes all in a row.
Which is always why we've kind of bounced back and forth between true crime and the paranormal, which I think was
Yes.
initially your idea, and I think was probably a very good call.
Yeah, I think it kind of gets going, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I enjoy a lot of the topics we do on the paranormal ones.
Sometimes listening to
Yeah.
one that's all true crime too is like I can find that hard to like even listen to like all day at work or something. I'm just like, I need a break.
Yeah, it's a lot. And then they can tend to bleed together when it's just true crime. So,
Or to be fair, listening to one podcast all day, because I literally can listen to pods all day at work, like 8 hours can be a lot without breaking it up.
yeah,
So,
I couldn't do it.
yeah. But oh shit, what was I gonna say? Oh, you just said it. The paranormal podcast. I don't know, but I was wearing my sweatshirt on my way home when I stopped by the liquor store for our recording tonight, and I was reading my Keep It Weird podcast sweatshirt, and she was like, "Oh, what's that? Is that a podcast you listen to or something?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, it's a paranormal podcast. Like I'm into those things or whatever." And she's like, "Oh yeah, me too. Cool." And I was like, kind of shy, like, "Well, yeah, I'm so into them. Me and my friend kind of have one." She's like, "Oh
Yeah.
really?" I know. It's like putting yourself in the dating world. You're like, this is so nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah.
Should we print out business cards?
I almost felt like I wished I had one because like
Yeah.
people don't always remember the name offhand, right? So if they don't go like put it in their Spotify right away, I've like I think one person was like, just put it in my phone for me or whatever. Yeah. So it's that kind of thing. But
I think it was when we first started, I had somebody at work ask me almost every time they saw me what the name of the podcast was. And I was like, okay, like, are you going to listen or not? Like, clearly you're having problems. you remember I have a podcast and I've told you the name of it 15 times. So either look it up immediately or let's move on.
Well, maybe it is hard to find, right? Yeah. So I guess sometimes I do try to send people like the link if they're like, what is it again? Yeah.
It's even like one day on her lunch break, I was like helping her look it up. I was like, oh my god, like just I can't anymore.
We need a business card with the thing that what are they called? Where you
the
can
QR code.
Hover your phone over it. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, my sister-in-law has a QR code that's for her like hairdressing and everything. It takes you, I think, to her website and everything where you can book online. So if her clients don't know about it, she gets them to scan it, and then next time they can just book their appointment online instead of like she gets so many like text messages and messages through like Instagram and social media about like, hey, do you have appointments available? And then she's trying to like find an appointment, where if they have the thing, she has all these drop downs that has all the pricings on there and people book their own slots in.
Because it's not kind of through a salon directly or whatever.
No, it's all just her. So yeah, it's a lot easier if people can just schedule
be your own
themselves
secretary. In. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very frustrating.
I imagine.
Yeah.
But. Yeah. Well, I'm excited about what we're talking about today, although I don't even kind of know what you're talking about now. I know what our general theme was we picked, but that's about all.
Mine, I think, was one of the, I think it was last time we kind of did like spiritualists and mediums. I had come across a little paragraph that talked about some other ones, and I just like saved the names to be like, oh, if we revisit this topic, I at least have a couple that I could like look up and see if I wanted to cover another one of these. So yeah, this ended up being one of those, and I was
So, like,
hoping
what
that you
other
hadn't heard
episode
of
was
them.
that? Like, with when we like, what did you cover in the spiritualism one? Was it the one with the sisters and stuff that we did?
Yeah,
Sisters spiritualism. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
that one. You did
Oh,
the
okay.
Fox sisters, who did come up in this. I guess they were kind of inspired by them. It was fun.
I like them. Yes, I think they were the ones born in New Brunswick, and then went to New York. Okay.
Yes,
No.
in the New York area. Yeah.
Okay, mine's more on the psychic side. I would say, well, spiritualism too. Yeah. Because I forget what the definition of that one is sometimes. With like
Kind of. Yeah.
more on the medium side with the communing with the dead and stuff. I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I got some of that. Okay. I'm ready. I was like, maybe I misunderstood the assignment, but then I'm like, no, it's gonna be great.
This one I thought was interesting too, because this is a pair of brothers, which I feel like doesn't happen quite as often as
TV would lead us to believe. Sam and Dean.
Yeah.
We've been watching so much Supernatural. I'm so sorry. as per usual.
But yeah, there's a few shout outs in this one for sure. I was like, ooh, I know that name. That's a famous person. I was like,
that's so fun when you start to recognize things almost when you're like, oh, I know this from this and this from this. Yeah. So cool.
So this is the Davenport brothers.
Davenport.
Yeah.
So fancy. I'm sure that's a brand or an old-fashioned name for a couch, like a Chesterfield or something I've heard before.
It did sound vaguely familiar, so yeah, maybe that's why I recognized it.
Recline on the Davenport. Yeah.
The family was from Buffalo in Western New York.
Oh, okay.
And
New York.
The brothers consisted of Erastus Davenport, born in 1839.
Ooh,
long time ago. And
Victorian era.
And then younger brother William Henry Harrison Davenport was born in 1841. And they had a younger sister. I think her name was Elizabeth. I only saw her in a couple of sources. Don't know a whole lot.
That's giving such her. Elizabeth Olsen getting overshadowed by Mary Kate and Ashley vibes. So I think her name's Elizabeth. I don't know why. No, wait. She's probably really good, actually. And very talented. Right. We just haven't discovered her yet.
She's too young. She will skyrocket to fame at another point. Decades after her older sisters do.
That's right. It's not her time yet. You have 15 minutes. We'll come.
Yeah. Gordo, lay down. Be chill, dude. Be chill. Go over there. You're so strong. Yeah. How are you so strong?
Dean just literally called someone Gordo the other day because, he was a hunter named Gordon, who's the black guy who turns into a vampire. He was like, come on out here, Gordo, or something like that. Amazing.
El Gordo.
El Gordo. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think there's a little bit more you can find online about their family, but their father, Ira Davenport Sr., was a Buffalo City police officer. And then their mother, I think she was probably just stay-at-home mom, helping raise the family. Her name was Virtue Honeysett, which people just don't name people Virtue anymore.
My face. I was like, her first name was Virtue, and her last name was
Honeysett. Like honey as in the food, and then S-E-T-T. Honeysett.
Oh. My name is Chastity Honeypot. No. That's amazing.
So close.
I'm a Southern belle. Oh.
There's a couple different versions about how they got into their performances that they were doing.
Okay.
Yeah. Most
I can only imagine.
popularly kind of goes that starting in 1854, less than about 10 years after the spiritualism movement had taken off in America with the Fox sisters, as you talked about.
And they're from New York too, or like they lived in New York as well.
Yeah.
Nice.
Because of this, members of the Davenport family reported that Ira, the oldest, had begun to levitate, and that the brothers claimed to be able to communicate with various spirits. There's also stuff about them, like, holding seances and stuff going on with Elizabeth and everything, but it's almost every source says something totally different, so...
Oh no.
Yeah. It's really hard, and I didn't want to go through everything, so...
Yeah. It's a pick and choose your own adventure at that point. It reminds me
really
of the
is.
way the one podcast that I listened to, the Spill the Mead, the girls always kind of framed it as a history gossip podcast, because like a lot of stuff obviously is really debated in history, so it can be really boring to be like, well, it could be this, or it could be this, or it could be this. They're like, it could be this one, so like that seems to fit, let's go with that, you know.
Yeah,
it's like disclaimer, you know. We don't know for sure Z's.
Yeah, so most of the things did seem to state that it was starting in about 1854 that they started claiming to be able to commune with spirits. And within a year of this, there was a spirit guide named John King that convinced Ira Sr., the father, to allow the boys to perform for the public. And this they started doing at about 16 and 14 years old. And their first shows...
dad was against it? Performing?
It didn't really seem like he was against it. Just like it didn't really enter his mind, being a cop, that like his kids could do this, but as like a career path, but ended up
it's just like you said, allowed to perform or something. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Mostly they're like, are we gonna make money off it? And then pretend they don't want to make money off it. Yeah. Or whatever.
So at 16 and 14 years old, their first shows were introduced as the brothers working with spirit power rather than tricks or being magicians, which was...
Oh boy.
I think I ran into something saying that magicians was only, as like a concept, wasn't really a thing quite yet.
Like maybe they had sorcerers and stuff, but not close hand magic magician people.
Their shows involved spirit knocking or tapping, which I think is what you talked about with the Fox sisters.
It's very common, yeah.
Yeah. And their shows later evolved into musical instruments that would actually play on command and fly around the room.
Oh my gosh.
Obviously, that's crazy. Became very popular.
Let's go. Any ectoplasm? Like, some of these ladies went real hard with ectoplasm, quote unquote, and rabbit parts. Oh gosh, I can't remember what her name was, but there was...
gross.
Yeah, people, will do some things for their 15 minutes of fame. I don't know.
People still do. Hasn't changed a whole lot, yeah.
It's like and subscribe.
Yeah.
Well, I will go to Yellowknife and drink the sourdough cocktail, won't you?
I will not.
Oh, okay. Ressa did it. Anyway, it's a little gross.
I could not imagine anything worse than a
liquor that has a toe instead of a freaking, what's it called, worm? Tequila worm.
Oh,
Yeah.
so gross.
Okay, well, if we go to Newfoundland, though, you could get screeched in. Then you just have to kiss the cod. That's a little less gross.
No thanks.
You loved the moonshine in Vegas. We'll try it.
Those
She's
were
a
tiny shots. I'm not.
It was good, though. They were yummy.
Yeah.
Turn my phone down. Anyway. Carry on.
Anyway, the brothers' big break came after sort of a dare from an audience member at one of their New York shows. This
Oh, really?
attendee, yeah, they suggested that the brothers should perform their quote-unquote seance with the spirits while concealed inside of a box, like a wardrobe.
Okay.
And that would help. I think I read somewhere it was like to separate them from the instruments, so that people would like believe them more. I don't know. It didn't really make sense to me, but
it's totally the birth of the magician's trick. It's like, look over here while I'm getting in this box.
Yeah.
And what's his face on Arrested Development when he's like, I'm gonna go in this Jesus cave and I'm gonna get resurrected, and then God, don't they like almost bury him for real? I don't know.
I think so.
He's probably like, I made a huge mistake. Job.
But with this like audience suggestion, they became their most popular, and what they're actually like well known for is the Davenport Spirit Cabinet that they toured with, and like with that suggestion, this whole thing that they become so well known for was born.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is sounding a little familiar, whether or not it's just that I've heard someone use a cabinet before. I don't know, but interesting.
Okay.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, it kind of looks like if you picture like a stagecoach, like carriage kind of thing, and it's got doors and it's kind of got the ornate wooden designs and everything, and they're going to be sitting in it.
Oh, so it's big. Okay.
Well on stage. Okay. Yeah, it's pretty big.
Okay. Not Dybbuk box sized.
No, this is like pretty big.
Okay.
So the brothers introduced this wooden cabinet into their act. It stood at about 6 feet tall and was perched on 2-foot tall supports. It was decorated with designs of these vines and the fleur-de-lis.
Okay, that is sounding like Cinderella's coach almost now.
Yeah, it kind of does when you look at pictures. It does look nice.
Fancy.
There were 3 doors that opened. There was like a middle one that would hold all the instruments now, and then on each side the brothers would be sitting on a bench and like with all the instruments in between them, and I think there was wooden like walls in between them and the instruments, so supposedly they couldn't touch them.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and the brothers were separated as well.
Everything's up. See, no trapdoors here, no hidden things there. Yeah. Getting that vibe.
They would sit inside the cabinet, positioned at either end, and yeah, kind of like a stagecoach. You'd sit at the either end, and then instead of like an empty space in the middle, there's a separate kind of area with instruments. Each seat that they would sit on had 2 holes that were drilled through, and then hanging inside the middle of the cabinet behind the doors that separated the brothers hung various instruments, including bells, horns. I think some stuff even said guitars and trumpets. Like they had a whole lot of stuff going on in there. Yeah.
This is so elaborate.
Yeah, it was like wild. Like, I love it. So this was the routine. So they did other stuff, like they still did the knocking, they still did some other stuff, but this was like the big draw. Once they got well known for it,
that they're like making stuff. All these instruments play and stuff. Like this is the act.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's some stuff you can look up about some of their other acts that they also did. This isn't the only thing they did, but it is kind of like the big finale
Mm.
showstopper.
No, I would love to see it because it's so much harder, you know. Well, for me, I like trying to envision something than like seeing it played out in a movie or something.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, cool, I get it.
absolutely.
Yeah. You get the kind of visual impact or whatever, but like, sounds pretty crazy.
Yeah, so I do kind of have a rundown on how the act kind of went.
Oh my gosh, I
The
feel like I'm watching The
brothers-
Prestige.
Yeah, that's what I kept thinking of when I was writing
Nice.
this.
That's such
I
a
was
good
like-
movie. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Hugh Jackman. Oh, okay. Right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's Hugh Jackman and is it Christian Bale?
Christian Bale, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I recently watched it again and I was like, God damn. Good movie.
Oh, very rewatchable. Very rewatchable. Because you're like, what happened? Oh yeah.
Okay, so the act kind of goes like this. The brothers would first select audience members, of course, to serve as a committee. This committee together would tie the brothers up with ropes. This is while the Davenports were seated on the benches with their feet in front of them, like inside the cabinet. Committee
so
members...
these aren't audience plants that they need to have. They're just regular audience.
Maybe
I don't know. Okay.
There's some debate about how many people traveled with them and how often they were seen at different shows. So
sure. Some audience members may have been slightly more informed.
Yeah.
Prepped. Okay.
Yeah, so these committee members, hold on, my whole thing just scrolled crazy.
Oh no.
Where was it? Yeah, they'd sit on the benches with their feet in front of them, and the committee members would tie this rope around their legs just below their knees down to their ankles. And then the remaining rope, so I think it was started at one brother, the remaining rope was brought over to the other brother, I think through like small holes drilled, like that would pass through the walls inside the cabinet. And then the end of the length of the rope was used to tie the bottom of the legs of the other brother. Once that was done, there was shorter ropes that were used to tie the brothers' wrists to the holes in their benches. So like they were... Yeah. So
they have passed a rope through essentially a glory hole to tie to the other person's legs. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Am I picturing this right? Okay. All right, just make
my understanding, yeah. Of the few pictures I saw of like the cabinet.
And the ropes is very like later magician Harry Houdini kind of vibes or ahead of their time.
Yeah, so then their wrists are tied together and then their wrists are like tied to the benches so they can't move from the benches. And with the brothers secured inside the cabinet, the doors that like showed the brothers to the audience would be closed and the crowd would be left in awe as within moments instruments would begin to play from inside the cabinet while the brothers they're tied up.
I see. It's the are we playing the instruments? Yes, while we're all tied up. Classic gag. No, classic. I don't know.
A couple of sources said that some instruments were even tossed out of a little porthole window that was at the top of the middle door where the instruments were housed. Yeah.
By whom? By whom?
By the spirits, of course, Alana. It's the spirits.
Yes. They're the ones playing the instruments. Okay.
I also saw something in one of the last sources, so I'm not sure if it's true or not, that they sometimes hands and feet would stick out of this porthole as well, that were also supposedly the spirits. So interesting.
I mean, all right. And I feel like their feet just sticking out. They're just like,
yeah, here's
so
a foot.
Easy to do. The hands, I don't know. Get the magician, the guy that unmasks all the other magicians to come out and be like, oh, it was, the assistant. Well, just like, come on, we all know when they cut the woman in half, it's not, they don't cut the woman in half. There's two assistants, right? It's like that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get to it. There might be some stuff that gets figured out.
Oh.
So the instruments were said to be played by the spirits who accompanied the Davenport brothers. At the end of the show, the doors would once again be opened to reveal each of the brothers still tied to their benches.
Right.
And then at the very end of the act, the doors were once again closed briefly, and then finally opened to reveal that the men were free of the ropes, and the ropes were like gone. So
dun dun dun. Okay.
Yeah. I did like this. This was quite fun. It was from American Hauntings. AmericanHauntingsInc.com. They had a cute little write-up about one of the performances. It says, on occasion, a spectator from the audience would be invited on stage and would be seated between the brothers in the cabinet. A few moments after the doors were closed, the man in the center would be often tossed out of the box with his coat gone, his necktie around his leg, and a tambourine seated on his head. Someone would fling open the doors and the Davenports would be found tied up just as they were before. It also said that the Davenports also performed a dark seance on stage, asking members of the audience to be present to ensure that no trickery was involved. The brothers were securely tied to a table on the stage and the lights were turned out. Soon after, ghostly forms began to float about on the stage.
What?
Of course, when the lights were raised again, the brothers would be found, or would still be bound, to the table. So they did a lot of stuff with ropes. I think.
Early
bondage.
Yes, I don't know where I was going with that. 50 Shades of Davenport.
Yeah.
Yes. No, I shouldn't say that. They apparently give the BDSM community, they're not very representative from what I've heard.
No, it's very, very bad. Do not follow the books or the show, movies, whatever.
Not very consensual. Didn't we talk about on Patreon that was written by a super Mormon?
I think we've talked about it a few times, yeah.
But if we haven't, enough for you just turn back into Patreon because we get into all of our opinions there.
Yeah.
And the cringy writing. So fun.
Yeah, so that's one of the write-ups they had about one of the performances. There was many magicians and skeptics alike who tried to begin debunking this routine. To some success, some more so than others, and after many tries, apparently many, not just magicians, but other performers were able to replicate parts of the act. And I guess at the time, because people that hadn't seen the show but that had maybe heard about the show didn't know what the Davenports necessarily looked like, so sometimes these debunking routines were performed in front of the public, so sometimes people thought that those people that were reenacting what the Davenports did actually were the Davenports.
Oh my god.
So there was some stuff about that too, which I thought was kind of funny. They're like, yeah, some of them got successful at it, they were basically imitating the Davenports and touring that way, having stolen their act.
And there's no way they're gonna go viral enough that you'll just know.
Yeah, I mean, it's the 1850s. It just doesn't. Yeah, and I guess some people went a different way. Once they figured out exactly how the Davenports did it, they often confronted the brothers during their performances, even pushing their way to get picked as part of the committee, or as volunteers in their act, and they would harass them and follow them from city to city, trying to get picked in every single performance. So they could keep revealing them to the public as frauds.
Oh, so not the first groupies, as I was gonna say.
No, very bad.
They're still debunking them, man. Yeah.
Not the kind of groupies you
Some
want.
people had, it's like they were like, oh, I'm into spirit. Like I want to say Harry Houdini is one of the main ones I can think of that's like had a contentious relationship with spiritualism, where they're like, oh, it's all hooey, and then like someone they love dies or whatever, and then they're like, well, no, I really want to talk to them again, and then you know what I mean? They want to believe again. It's like they change their stance.
So they had been, at this point, they had been touring successfully in the US for about a decade.
Wow.
With the war and everything happening, and stuff going on in the US, the brothers turned their sights on Europe starting in 1864. And this is when things started to go downhill, definitely, for them. Yeah, Europe was like a different thing altogether. Not every
it would have
audience.
been fine if it weren't for you meddling Europeans. No.
And your dog too. No.
Yes, your little dog too.
Not every audience was convinced of the spirits playing the instruments. Most notably at this show that happened in Liverpool.
Don't blame them.
Where the selected committee included a pair of engineers who ended up tying the brothers up in a knot with the ropes called a Tom's Fool's knot, which I liked that the articles always made sure to put that the spirits didn't know how to untie these knots, and eventually the brothers had to be cut free because the instruments never played, and every time they opened the doors, the brothers were still tied up. The crowd got mad.
Okay, right. Because the knot...
It was too complex.
I was watching a lot of Unsolved Mysteries, and there was a case where a guy was tied up, and it was supposed to be a suicide, and it was also like, well, why would you tie yourself up, put an anchor around yourself, and then shoot yourself in the head so you fall off your boat? It was very convoluted, and I'm sorry, I got a little distracted thinking about people tying themselves up for no reason. Like, okay.
Yeah, so because the instruments never played and the act didn't work, the crowd turned into like this crazy angry mob and ended up like rushing the stage and ripping the cabinet apart. Like they broke the entire thing.
Oh no.
They took pieces of it away and basically disassembled the whole thing, and it was gone.
Oh shit.
Well, the brothers ended up fleeing, I think even the city.
Oh my god. Let's stop riot, and they're like, I'm gone.
Yeah, it's actually kind of crazy. Yeah, I guess the gentleman P.T. Barnum became aware of this incident and even wrote about it. Yeah, he's the first, or the second. I guess the Fox sisters would be the first shout out. The second is P.T. Barnum. There's others.
More name dropping? Oh no.
Yeah. He included this Liverpool accident in his 1865 book, The Humbugs of the World, which I thought was funny. Kind of being like, oh.
So this is called the Liverpool accident because it happened in Liverpool?
I don't think it has a name, really.
Oh, I thought you just said Liverpool accident, and I was like, Liverpool accent? What? The Liverpudlians?
Well, that's what I just said as like what I called it, but it's not like a named thing. It's just the like Liverpool show. I don't know. But this was not the only of their shows to go wrong in Europe. And the brothers had a history of the audience actually turning violent, or the brothers even being fined and imprisoned because of their shows. I'm sure there's quite fun books. People have done their research really well, and you can read, I'm sure, a lot about those failed shows. I don't go into it a whole lot, but
so, like, too many to cover, hey? Like,
Yeah, there's quite a bit. Like they talk about like the ones where um the like there I think it was the same guys that did the Tom's Fool knot that they couldn't get through in Liverpool. I think they're one of the ones that started like following them and going to all of their shows and being like, these people are frauds and we're gonna prove it by like them not being able to untie these, and then other people hearing
Oh.
about it and being like, Kate, we're gonna tie them up in this knot, or we're gonna tie them up this way and it's gonna be too tight. And I don't think I have
Yeah.
it, but there was even something I read that said that on multiple occasions the brothers, after being tied up by like one of the committee members, they had to put a stop to the show because the like bindings were too tight, and they were saying they were being injured, and the police like came on stage and like assessed them and were like, nope, you're fine, carry on with the show, and like closed the doors. And then when the show failed, then the mob attacked.
Oh, yeah.
And it
Jeez.
sounded like multiple versions of the cabinet were like ripped apart by the crowds on multiple occasions and shows. So there's a lot.
Dang.
if you go into it, it's actually kind of wild.
Yeah, for sure. Like, it's a very weird, like, reminds me of the modern guy that unmasked the magician's tricks versus this, like, old-timey, oh, like, these aren't necessarily tricks, it's entertainment, or it's,
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, half of it is okay, is this entertainment or is somebody actually for real? And I think that's the thing, that's the appeal of like psychics and mediums and stuff. But
Well,
these guys.
I didn't really mention it, but they did have a former minister
Yeah.
that toured with them a lot. I think for sure when they were in Europe, I'm not sure about the US, who basically was like, everything you're about to see is the work of magic and like spirits and everything.
He's their promoter. Their MC.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, he would like introduce them. Yeah.
Nice.
So after that Liverpool show, the brothers ended up leaving England and began touring in Paris and even Germany.
Ooh.
We do know that, in Paris, another one of their shows went so wrong that police had to intervene. I think this might have been the one where they tested the ropes and everything, and then the crowd rushed the stage again. And the police were still there when this happened, and they actually kind of compelled the brothers to actually refund all of the admission money back to the crowd because they had not been able to perform.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's weird. And also, I get distracted because Gordon was flicking his tail, and then all I could see was it coming out of your hair, and it looked like Medusa for a minute, where like one of your curls was like alive, and he was moving behind you.
I think he's just moving. There was a spectator that rushed the stage, and he put his hand on the bench around where the ropes were wound, and he ended up touching this spring that bent the bench in the middle and caused the ropes to fall to the feet of the captives. So he had basically like uncovered unintentionally maybe how they were doing the trick, which also caused some problems at the show.
Right.
Yeah. So while this was going on, obviously, like the fame around the brothers grew, for better or worse. There was a lot of people that got a lot of popularity just for people thinking they were basically hacks. And many skeptics and believers continue to show interest in the Davenports, which is where I get to probably two of the biggest shout-outs and name drops of them. This is the argument arguments surrounding the brothers between Harry Houdini and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
Conan Doyle. I knew
Yeah.
it. All right.
Yeah.
They always pop up in these stories. Oh my
Yeah, it's
gosh.
actually kind of
Sherlock Holmes' daddy. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so funny. Like, yeah, till I started listening to podcasts, I never knew that they were both kind of in and out of the spiritualism phase and shit, like, world.
Yeah. So Sir Arthur Conan Doyle became a fan of the Davenport brothers and was very public about his belief in their abilities, often defending the brothers, their like act and their like character, saying like they weren't liars and they wouldn't lie about that kind of stuff. Yeah. Doyle himself had an interest in the spiritualist movement and the more positive beliefs of the religion, like mostly that with the absence of hell and a continued existence after death, the living may be able to speak with the dead, which is what the Davenports were like saying, that they were communicating with them and like they were playing musical instruments for them. And with the aftermath of World War I, spiritualism saw a huge revival. There was a cool thing. This was from redex.com. And that was just like a little bit about like Conan Doyle's, I don't know, history with spiritualism. And how it kind of
I know
came
Houdini
about.
had a personal history with it as well, so yeah, that's interesting.
So Conan Doyle envisioned himself as a missionary for the spiritualist religion and even traveled to the US to give lectures on the subject. His path and subsequent conversion to the spiritualist cause began in the late 19th century, but was reinforced following his son's death shortly before the end of the Great War. Seeking out an opportunity to reconnect with the spirit of his son, he hired mediums and arranged a seance to be conducted. During one of these interviews, he claimed to have made contact in which his son had asked forgiveness for a disagreement they had had before his death. And Doyle believed this disagreement involved matters of spiritualism, something he and his son had not seen eye to eye on before his death. So it was like pretty personal for him. He believed that most of it was true and people had these abilities.
Yeah, it seems like that's what helped it become popular, is like it. I guess the first time and whenever it has its resurgence, it's usually when people are at war. Like, what's this one? The Civil War. That's right, in America.
Yeah.
So that's like one of the first times we actually hear about it, and it's people are like, oh my gosh, they're bereaved and lost a loved one, and it's so crazy. That kind of binds everyone together, even if they're on different sides of the conflict or whatever.
Yeah, we talked about that with like Ouija boards and everything too. They became really popular at that time for that.
Right? Yeah, you don't think how like they're older than they seem, but also younger somehow. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Ugh, so weird.
So we can't talk about them without talking about the side of the skeptics, which the Davenport brothers attracted plenty of, as I've kind of touched on. But they did attract the attentions of famous magician and escape artist Harry Houdini.
I mean, he's just all up in there.
Right? Houdini had spent many years in the spiritualist circles, joining in seances and observing miraculous feats, all with the eye of a skeptic. And in his time, he had proven many mediums as false, and he had now trained his eyes on the Davenports.
This is his skeptic era, yes. I feel like I've heard of this. Because he has
Um,
such a up and down relationship. Often,
yeah,
like you say, when someone's family member dies, then they like almost become more open to it because they're like, I would do anything to like speak to them again. It's just that
right? Yeah.
simple. Yeah.
It's the hope that, like, they could ever speak to them again.
Yeah, and like the hopefully like like the kind of faith that we have that it's got to go on in some fashion. And so I love those
Yeah.
stories when people are like, I'm sure that ghost was like my grandma or whatever, or your kid's like, "Hey, grandpa," and like it's creepy, but it's
Yeah.
also comforting. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
it.
The rest of my segment kind of jumps around a little bit. Hopefully it's not overly confusing. In the 1920s, Houdini had set out to write a book about the origins of the spiritualist movement and revealing the falsities within it. He admitted during
Mm.
his research that he actually believed that both the Davenport brothers had passed away. This is again in the 1920s, but this
Okay.
was incorrect. William Davenport, the younger brother, had died actually in 1876 in Australia at the age of
Oh.
36 while they were doing one of
Oh
their
my god.
tours after contracting tuberculosis of the lungs. So,
No.
yeah, it was like quite sudden and obviously like everything.
1936. I didn't think people were still dropping a TB. Jesus.
No, he died at the age of 36 in 1876.
1876. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I did
Yeah,
hear
but
the age 36 because that got me because I was like, I am 36.
yeah.
Anyway,
No, he was
damn.
36. He died in 1876.
That's rough
Um
though. Damn, man. It's too fucking young no
yeah.
matter what the century. Yeah.
Um
Hmm.
yeah, it was very abrupt and obviously ended the Davenport brothers shows.
Mm-hmm.
Houdini, during his research for the book, he believed both of them had passed away, but he had learned that Ira at that point was still alive and he was willing to talk to Houdini. So,
Okay.
um, it turns out after William's death, Ira had attempted to revive their act, to like no success. Nobody was really interested in going to see them anymore.
Oh.
He kind of tried to revive it with a couple people that had toured with them before as like opening acts and people who had been associated with them before, but nothing ever really took off, so he didn't keep up
Hmm.
with it.
Damn.
Um, a lot of the rest of this is according to Houdini, um, stating that Ira wished to come clean about what they had done in their earlier years, and saying in an interview with him that Ira had admitted to fakery and even showed Houdini the trick they used to escape the ropes inside the cabinet, a trick which reportedly even impressed the famous escaped artist. So, I
Oh.
mean, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
even though other people, I guess, previously had like figured out what they were probably doing, I guess it was still impressive to
Yeah.
Houdini, like decades later, um,
That's
how
like
they
the
may
Penn and Teller
have
show
actually
where
done it.
they
Yeah,
assess the magicians and if their
my
tricks
parents
are
like
good.
that show. Yeah,
I've seen it a couple times. It's not bad. I
yeah.
definitely would watch more. I just don't know where it is or whatever.
Uh, in regards to their trick of making musical instruments fly around the room, which I guess they were still doing. So they were
What?
having ones where they would
Okay.
fly around the room and then separate ones that would play inside the cabinet. So when asked about it, um, according to Houdini, Ira reportedly responded, "Strange how people imagine things in the dark," saying
Oh
it's
my
like
god.
totally in everybody's head, but that.
Oh my god. Okay, gaslighter. What the fuck?
uh,
You were just like, yeah, it works. It all works. I don't know.
yeah.
Crazy.
I have a little bit more from Redex.com again, saying despite the findings of Houdini's book released in 1924, entitled A Magician Among the Spirits,
Ooh.
Doyle ended up staying true to his beliefs that Houdini and the Davenport brothers' abilities did in fact come from a supernatural place. So, I mean, they go back and forth trying to convert each other. It's actually kind of funny. But Doyle's like, nope. And Houdini's like, I'm not magic. And Doyle's like, no, you are. You have magical abilities. And he's like, I really don't.
I was gonna say, yeah, Scully and Mulder, but maybe not.
Yeah.
What? Different.
Yeah. Doyle went on to compare Houdini to the Davenport brothers, stating, I am quite sure that if the Davenport brothers had done their performance as if it were a conjuring trick and had never told the honest and unpopular truth that it was of psychic origin, that they would have amassed a comfortable fortune. Yeah. Don't really know what that means.
So, yeah, I was a little confused also.
Likewise, Houdini said that Conan Doyle is sincere but deluded. Burn. It's an 18.
But Doyle rules! Adam Sandler. Okay.
Despite these disagreements, a close friendship eventually developed during this period, and each spent considerable time trying to convert the other. Conan Doyle often arranged meetings for Houdini with mediums, and likewise Houdini went about disproving their spiritual abilities, and neither persuaded the other to budge.
I mean, it's so cute, though.
I know.
They still want to be friends, even though they disagree.
I do like that it said that they eventually were able to develop a friendship, which I appreciate.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Because, something to be said for the fact that obviously you're going to be different from any one of your friends. You're not going to agree on everything.
Yeah.
You should still be able to be friends. Oh, that's so funny. Just still trying to kind of disprove each other for a long time.
Yeah, they just go back and forth, I guess. I do want to kind of look up more about them, but I was like, oh, there's probably so much about Houdini that
I was literally hearing about him this week. I don't know. I listen to a bunch of different podcasts. Some of them are like, guess this fact, like the wiki hole one. It might have been that one where someone was like, Harry Houdini died this way, and I'm like, is that true? Because he had a weird he got punched, and then a few days later the appendicitis and all that it was like, well, probably didn't help that this guy, they let the frat guys in his room after he did a show in Montreal, and he was like, what, you could take a punch to the stomach? Bam, 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 bam.
Oh, damn.
Fuck you, dude named Jocelyn, or whatever his name was. I was like, his name was Jocelyn?
Nice.
Anyway, and then it's not till he does a show the next day or something that he collapses in Detroit, but Jesus Christ.
Wow.
He was an icon, Houdini.
Yeah. All I had was that apparently after he died, Houdini died in 1926. Conan Doyle approached his wife Beatrice with a message that Houdini would communicate with him soon. Those words, however, whatever Houdini was supposedly going to be telling to him, would never come, and 4 years later in 1930, Doyle himself would die, and Houdini's wife Beatrice would never hear what supposedly her husband was trying to tell her from the afterlife, according to Doyle.
Okay. I remember hearing that there was a signal that the husband and wife had agreed on or something.
Yeah.
She was supposed to wait for, or he was supposed to. And,
Doyle himself, I guess, died before anything was ever passed along.
But it was Houdini that wanted the signal from the afterlife, right? He was convinced he could talk to his wife or something. Is that right?
Houdini was already dead and supposedly going to be trying to pass along the signal to his wife.
Okay, so they had a code word or whatever.
Something. I don't know. It didn't say
Okay,
what
I
it
remember hearing
was.
something like that. That they had like a phrase they were gonna use. Okay.
Probably.
Alright.
Shortly
Makes sense.
after Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's death, this Nino Pecoraro
Oh.
came out in public to recant his psychic abilities in an attempt to make an honest living after the ghost business had hit a depression. Pecoraro had previously claimed responsibility for Doyle's initial conversion to the spiritualist beliefs, and had claimed to speak to Houdini after his death.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah,
But he didn't say what Houdini said.
no, but
Of
he
course.
did say he was a fraud at least.
Okay.
And then
He was like, as Houdini appeared and just said, "By the way, I'm dead, but I'm a fraud." No. You're right.
no, not that Houdini's a fraud, that he was a
Oh.
fraud. This Nino Pecoraro guy, he
Oh my
came
gosh.
forward and said he is a fraud.
I get so
Yeah,
confused with it. I'm sorry. I know, because like I
that's
know
okay.
that he was into it for a while and then wasn't. So I'm always like, wait, when was
No.
this? Yeah, sorry.
Um, in 1951, I guess London passed the Fraudulent Medium Act.
Oh my
The act
god,
worked to criminalize people who pretended to act as spiritualist mediums for money
really?
or material profit. I know, I had no idea.
That seems
This
so
was
progressive for the time.
yeah, 1951. Apparently, the act was later repealed
1951.
in 2008. So I guess that's not a thing
Repealed?
anymore. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I can't believe they repealed it, but
This is
whatever.
bizarre.
They're like, we need to stimulate the economy, make more jobs. Let's let people pretend to be mediums for money again.
Yeah, which, wow, I don't know. There are the mediums, like the purported psychic mediums that you go to that are what I think it described it the other day as like you get the cold reading ones versus the hot reading because there's the ones that just go, oh, I see an important male in your future or in your life or whatever, and like of course most people are like, yeah, my dad or whatever, right? It's like
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know. It's just weird that there's like a whole law about it.
Yeah,
So
it'd be
strange.
interesting to look into that more, I think.
Oh my god, we should do an episode on like, yeah, strange laws.
I do have a little bit from Wikipedia.
No,
This
just kidding.
was about it was a little bit more about the Davenports. In 1998, there was a skeptical investigator named Joe Nickel who discovered the Davenport scrapbook that I guess was in the museum at the
Oh.
Lilydale. What are we, a lunch meet? The
Yeah,
Lilydale
right?
Spiritualist Assembly. Sorry.
Yeah, they're like a
Yeah.
meat company.
Yeah. Lilydale.
I knew
Anyway.
somebody who like was part of the Lilydale family. Anyway, someone I
Yeah.
worked with.
Apparently there was a scrapbook that was found in 1998 at the Lilydale
Okay.
Spiritualist Assembly.
Oh
And
my
this
god.
Nickel examined the newspaper clippings, personal notes, and photographs from the scrapbook, and he concluded that Arthur Conan Doyle was correct about the Ira Davenport, endorsing spiritualism in private, and that Houdini was also
Oh.
correct about the Davenport having their public spirit phenomena be the result of trickery. So kind of was like, oh, both were true. Like, yeah, I
And
guess
this is while
Ira
they're
like
still alive? The
no, they're
brothers?
long since dead. This
Oh,
is
sorry, I
19. They made this
completely.
scrapbook, or this scrapbook was made by
Right.
somebody, but it wasn't really reviewed until 1998, I guess.
Okay, yeah, you did say 19 something, and before that I thought 18, so I missed the boat. I'm sorry. Ugh.
Yeah, so I guess like Ira, even though they were using tricks to do their act, Ira, the older brother, still kind of believed in like spiritualism and everything, like privately, even though they were using
Okay.
tricks for their show. So, yeah.
Yeah, because it doesn't negate something just because you're like, oh, I'm a ghost. Doesn't mean that
Yeah.
ghosts don't exist just because you're pretending to be one. Just that kind of thing, I guess. Yeah, very,
Yeah.
very interesting though. One of those ones, if you don't do the deep dive, then you're just gonna get the, oh, it was this, or it was a hoax, or whatever. Like, you get a one sentence thing. So it's really interesting to
Yeah.
hear someone kind of go through it and be like, okay, here's the nuances, and
Yeah.
some was fake or some was not, which sometimes is the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
According to Nickel, taken as a whole, the evidence of the scrapbook does indicate that Ira Davenport was a practicing spiritualist, or at least pretending to be, although he and his
Okay.
brother used trickery to accomplish the effects they attributed to spirits. And I guess,
He
yeah, I thought that
believed,
was...
he just faked it for everyone else.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought this was sweet in honor of his brother, because it was the younger brother that passed away. The older brother Ira had ordered a magnificent memorial for him, on which was carved a representation of their ropes, the cabinet, and other seance props they used in their show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
As William had died in Australia, apparently, and like I'd say unfortunately, the cemetery officials in Sydney would not allow the monument within the cemetery grounds, so it was placed outside of the cemetery instead.
Oh, really?
I should have tried to look up pictures of that, because that sounds interesting. I wonder if it's still there.
Well, why was it so offensive? I'm
I
sure
don't
I'm
know. It
missing
just said they
something.
wouldn't allow the monument within the cemetery, so it was like placed
Okay.
outside the cemetery.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah. And then Ira, the older brother, he passed away. He was living in New York. It didn't really say what he was doing, but he passed away in 1911 at the age of 71.
Wow.
I can't remember if I ran across how he had passed away, but
Right. Well,
yeah.
at the age of 71, you assume it's something fairly natural. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Like,
I just thought
he
it
got
was...
a motorcycle accident. No. Could have been.
No, I don't think it was anything like that, but I thought it was kind of sad that like his younger brother passed away when he was 36, and then like he lived longer without his younger brother than he did with him, like doing the show.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's kind of
I thought...
depressing, yeah.
Yeah, because Ira was 71 when he passed away, and then William was only 36 when he passed away.
Stop saying that. I'm 36. I don't want it.
You're not gonna get tuberculosis of the lungs, though, in Australia.
Oh my gosh, sorry. I know. It's just one of those years where it's like life is too fucking short. People do get sick before they're too old, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But...
oh my god, you guys, I'm depressing. Shout out to the lady at the liquor store who supplied me my cider tonight, who's probably gonna listen to our podcast.
Yeah,
because she saw my Keep It Weird podcast t-shirt or whatever it was. This is why you need merch, people. I need more sweatshirts. Yeah. I'm saying that like my mom didn't and my cousin didn't make me those shirts that we have that say castles and cryptids on them. I love you guys.
Yeah.
That was amazing. It was also like long enough ass story that I don't know if we might just make this one the episode. Like, what do you think?
We probably could, yeah.
As we're
I didn't think it would be this long, but it ended up that way.
Yeah, like fucking fucking fruit fly. Jesus, gross. It was on my glasses. No, that was really good. Like, kind of had to be a long one because you couldn't
Yeah.
want to shorten stuff
There
like that. Like, you
was
have to
quite
leave
a bit I
stuff
left out. I think I ended up like my last 3 sources. I was like, I'm tired of reading about stuff, and I didn't even go back to them. I was like, nope, I'm done.
No. I get it where I'm like, I don't know how to be done. Yeah, you're like, hyper focused. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure people can read the book, but it was really intriguing. That was like, it's just enough to make you want to go like, okay, well, what the fuck else did they get up to? You know?
Yeah,
Like,
there was quite a few books that I ran across that have been written about them. Apparently they're like people are very divided about them. You either kind of like them
oh,
or apparently like you hate them because a lot of things
yeah.
like said when you tried googling them it was like the ones like the um like brothers that divided Europe or and stuff like that were
Oh
like
wow.
headlines. It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Um
love sensationalism headlines sometimes. I've heard a lot
yeah.
covered about, like, say, the Menendez brothers case, and I thought that was really good coverage on different podcasts. And then you get the ones, the Netflix stuff that's like monsters, and you're like, how is that title not even biased? Like, I don't know. You're
Yeah.
just like, sometimes you just want to listen to a little bit of a deep dive because people give you a little more context and you feel a little bit more informed. Not that we are freaking, journalists or anything, but my gosh, like,
Yeah.
it's hard to sift through all the shit that's on the internet. So I always appreciate when you bring me a little case and it's all succinct and I can be like, okay, there's
Yeah,
something there.
it's very hard to do. I don't think I appreciated how hard people have to do
I
when
know. Trying to
yeah,
find
I'll
stuff for
click
this
into something and I'll
episode.
start reading and be like, "Oh, this is like different information." And sometimes you get to something that they put in and you're just like, "Okay, that is so wrong." It's just like, "Okay, I have to disregard everything you just said. I'm not even going to read
I've
whatever
read
else you
10
have to say."
sources and yet you guys said, yeah, this thing. You're like, I don't know.
But it would be like
Seems
something
fishy.
wild. Like I ran across
Yeah.
stuff saying like some of them had died like a decade wrong and like all that kind of stuff and I was
Oh,
like, "Nope, like
death dates, eh? Yeah.
yeah, like everybody says this and you are the only one saying this." Like, "No, I can't."
Yeah.
Um
No, I've heard some
yeah,
of those
but there
problems.
is it does seem like there's quite a few books. I got a lot of stuff that popped up trying to get me to buy books about them on Amazon. So I
Oh,
think
I
there's some stuff
know.
out there. It's probably
Oh,
cool. I think magicians and that kind of stuff in like shows and um
it's cool.
routines are kind of interesting to read about. So
Not to
yeah.
mention The Magicians. When you said Magicians, I went,
No.
oh, yeah, that's a good show. Oh, but really, good show / book series.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, that was a really good story. I don't think, like, I feel like I've heard of stories where they had cabinets or something, but I really don't think I knew that. So
Yeah, I think
that was really good.
there's other people that use spirit cabinets. I guess there's also even a knot that was named after them called like the
Ooh.
Davenport knot or something. When I tried
Oh.
looking it up, I couldn't really figure out exactly what it was, but
And I was
um
like, I'm
it
sure
is
that's like another name for
directly
a couch or something. you
yeah.
know.
Yeah, it
But
does talk about them when you look up the Davenport knot. It's like made popular by the
okay.
Davenport brothers, Ira and William. So
Really? Well, the only thing I remember like that was the one lady I remember covering doing. Why were we doing Playboy bunnies? But I was doing a bunch of the Playboy bunnies that like died and stuff, which is depressing.
oh yeah. It's
And
like
the
the
one they
Hollywood
named
curses.
the what? Okay, it probably, I think it was like Hollywood Curses. You're right. And the one like that you see the bars and the back of like a big transport truck, you'll see like the steel bar and it'll be like
Yeah.
red and whatever, and it's like yeah, I think they like named the bar after her because the way that it was foggy and their car smashed into the back of a transport truck or whatever. Anyway, I don't know. It's just weird. It's one of the only ones. Some of these ones like kind of linger on, and when you're telling me these ones, I'm like, this stuff's. I've heard about some of this. It's just weird, and
Yeah.
to get like, yeah, the background is always fascinating. Always. I
Yeah,
feel.
the most likely thing I kind of ran across was that they weren't necessarily untying the ropes, that they were more likely, while they were being tied, they were like holding their wrists and stuff in certain ways that would have slack and everything, that they
Mm-hmm.
could like twist their wrists out and get their hands free and then probably get their legs free and then play the instruments, and then they could like loop their wrists and everything back into the ropes the same way so that when they open the doors they'd be like, we're still tied up.
Oh,
And then
crazy.
yeah, they weren't necessarily maybe like untying the knots, they were just like getting enough slack that they could like get the ropes to fall off, and then they could like retie themselves, which I think is like, how do you retie yourself up? Like that's kind of tricky. So
Yeah, that I don't know. I've heard about the thought or idea that if someone's like tying you up, or if you can get some sort of slack or traction by like if someone's tying your throat to like, I don't know, puff out your neck or whatever you can do to try and get a little extra leverage, or like to
yeah,
make the knots not tight, that works. But like, Jesus, you don't usually see it employed in everyday, like, I don't know,
yeah, I ran
fashion.
across a couple things that said that they were probably doing like that kind of thing. Um,
Weird.
yeah, but
Like just yeah.
I'm not sure about that little like trap door that they, where that little like spring thing that like collapsed part of the bench
Yeah.
down and released the thing. I'm not sure about that one then.
Right.
So
Whether you can call it like some sleight of hand or just some sort of trick or some skill that they had from doing it so often.
yeah.
Yeah, it's obvious they could do it
Apparently
better
what
to impress
yeah,
people.
apparently whatever they were doing was enough to impress Houdini, so maybe they were like untying
Yeah.
themselves and retying themselves back up like over and over again in the cabinet every night.
And if you get a present Houdini, I'm sorry. You've impressed me.
Right?
He was a pretty great guy all up until some stupid Quebec frat boy named Jocelyn punched him in the stomach. Fuck you! Oh, Houdini. He lived very riskily, so
I
it's one
think
of those ones
most of
that's
them
kind
do,
of
yeah.
ironic. Yeah, that he like just kind of dies from, yeah, the aftermath of different, yeah, whatever. That was really fascinating. I really
Yeah, I
enjoyed it.
enjoyed it.
Oh, that maybe this is why we find some fascinating ones, and sometimes they're back in history, and it'll be like to Kelsey, I'll be like, "Hey, we're like number 2 in the Good Pods history top 10 chart or whatever, top
Yeah, it's
100."
so weird. I don't think of us as a historical podcast.
Hey, we don't have a manager. We don't know how to brand. I mean, a lot of stuff we end up talking about ends up being in history. Who knows? I like it.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not offended to be like number 2 in the top indie history chart, but it is kind of weird because normally we're like on the true crime one. So it was just a little bit
Yeah.
like, okay.
How many things can we incorporate? What we got, like movies and TV show reviews, book reviews. Can we incorporate cooking
Right.
advice or something in here somehow? Just get
I
on
don't know if they
all
have a
of
top 100 list on Good Pods. I haven't been on there a
get
lot
on
because they're
all
often
of
very glitchy.
the
Yeah.
the types of podcasts, and then we can be on all the top 10 lists.
Oh yeah, I'm not mad about being like, oh, your podcast made the top 100 list. You're like, okay. And then I'd be like,
Yeah.
oh, history. Okay, Kelsey. I've been talking about so many pirates and we've been doing so many castles that people are like,
Yeah.
they're all castles, no cryptids. I don't know. Oh, I love it though. I love getting rated enough to be like, you're on, you know what I mean? I can't complain about being like, you're number 2 or whatever.
It's very cool for sure.
Yeah, I keep rating on good pods. I'd like to go on there, but I haven't been on there. My new phone doesn't have as much storage space, and it gets very glitchy. And it's like, I don't know how to run good pods. I'm gonna close now. Bye. And I'm like, okay.
Oh,
So
really?
then I just don't go on there. Yeah, I'll go on there to like rate some shows, but like I'll go and listen on Spotify because it doesn't crash my whole phone, as I was telling my brother. But anyway, still a good place to rate and review. So thank you guys for all doing that.
Yes.
Do it everywhere. It really helps. We appreciate it. I guess maybe we'll see you back here next time, because we were thinking about maybe doing next week as like something else, but I have my story still yet to tell, so I think we might just draw it out a little and have this one be your hour-and-a-half episode for the week. You greedy bastards. No.
Right. That just means I get to sit back and relax. Next week.
And last week's episode was like almost 3 hours. We were like a Marvel movie. I think.
No thanks.
We have problems. Yeah. So catch you back for part 2 of this one. Psychics, spiritualists, mediums, oh my.
Yeah.
For my part, where I'm going to tell Kelsey all about do I know? Yes, I do. Oh, mine's I looked up some famous psychics and ended up some that were female and made some cool predictions, and so I'm mostly going to tell you about someone who's called Baba Vanga.
No.
I think that's how you say it. She's also been called the Nostradamus of the Balkans, so ooh.
Oh. Okay.
Prophets and predictions. Oh my, it should be fun.
Yeah, wow.
Hopefully not scary. No. All right, so I guess we'll do that next time, and then we'll get into whatever we decided the next topic was, because
I had to look it up again because I couldn't remember. Egypt, true crime.
Okay, well, yeah, we'll probably do that one after. Yeah, because if we do, whatever, we were like, we might have to take a week off, but if we can do this one as an extended episode, that's cool too. So
we'll figure it out. We'll keep you guys in the loop.
Exactly. We'll catch you next time. So keep it cryptic.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Castles and Cryptids. We love all our listeners and appreciate every subscriber, every new review, every listen, rate, and download. Our music is by Kobe Off Air, and our cover art is by Antonio Garcia. We are also a proud member of Darkcast Network, where you can find the best and spookiest of all indie podcasts. Follow us on social media, where we are at Castles and Cryptids on mostly all of the things, now including TikTok. Check out our bonus content on Patreon, Cryptid Clashes, video minisodes of your hosts making asses of themselves, Ask Me Anything, quizzes, other special episodes, and more. Starting at just $2 a month, you can get 1 to 2 extra episodes, depending on your level. We produce, edit, and research everything ourselves, and any support you can lend helps us to keep it cryptic.
Hey, you.
Yeah, you.
Are you into weird shit? Yeah?
You into cryptids?
What about hauntings? Yeah, I've got a ghost for you.
Oh, you like otherworldly beings?
Me too. Check out all these aliens. We have plenty. How do you feel about a good legend?
Want to hear about spooky happenings?
Yeah, you do.
Let us show you what we've got.
Hey guys, grab a drink and join us, Amanda and Sean, every week while we dive into the strange and haunting topics that have piqued our interest.
See you over at The Haunted and the Strange, wherever you get your podcasts.
Stay spooky.